In a city that appeared on no map, people were born with a small clock embedded beneath the skin of their left wrist. It was no ordinary clock. It did not tell the time. Instead, it displayed the number of days remaining in its owner's life. No one knew how these clocks came to be inside them, and no one dared attempt to remove one. They were as much a part of a person as the heart or lungs. Children grew up watching the number slowly decrease, and eventually everyone became accustomed to knowing the date of their death from the moment they were born. Only Adam was different. On the morning of his 25th birthday, he glanced at his wrist and discovered that his clock had stopped completely. Its hands did not move, and the number remained unchanged day and night. At first, he assumed it had malfunctioned, but when doctors examined it, they reacted with visible fear. They told him that nothing like this had ever happened in the city's history. Then, without offering any explanation, they asked him to leave the hospital immediately, as though his mere presence had become dangerous. Over the following days, Adam began noticing stranger things. People passing him on the street stared a little longer than usual, and some quietly moved away from him for no apparent reason. Cats, meanwhile, seemed drawn to him. Black cats appeared wherever he went, gathering in alleys and on rooftops, sitting silently and watching him with bright, unblinking eyes. One evening, while walking home, he noticed an elderly woman sitting alone beside the river. As he approached, she spoke without looking at him. At last, she said, "The one who stepped outside of time has appeared." Adam froze. "What do you mean?" The woman pointed toward his wrist. "When the clock stops," she replied, "the counting stops. And when the counting stops, you no longer belong to the system." Before he could ask another question, she rose from the bench and disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind only the faint scent of rain. That night, Adam could not sleep. The old woman's words echoed endlessly through his thoughts. By dawn, he had made a decision. If nobody would tell him the truth, he would find it himself. There was an abandoned library in the oldest district of the city, a place few people visited anymore. Rumor claimed its books were older than the city itself. Adam spent hours searching through dust-covered shelves until he finally discovered a black leather manuscript hidden behind a row of decaying volumes. It had no title. Opening it carefully, he found a single page covered in tiny handwriting. "The clocks do not measure your lifespan. They measure how long you are permitted to remain here." A chill ran down his spine. He turned the page eagerly, but every remaining sheet was blank. Disappointed, he was about to close the manuscript when a folded piece of paper slipped from the back cover and landed on the floor.
It was a map, a strange map leading beyond the borders of the city. The next morning, Adam followed it. He walked for hours through the grey desert that surrounded the city on every side. The farther he traveled, the heavier the air became. Even the wind seemed reluctant to move. Eventually, he arrived at the location marked on the map. There was nothing there, nothing except a single wooden door standing upright in the middle of the sand. No walls, no building, just a door. Adam stared at it for a long time before gathering the courage to reach for the handle. The moment he opened it, the desert vanished. He found himself inside a vast hall stretching beyond sight. Its walls, pillars, and ceiling were covered with clocks. Millions upon millions of them. Their ticking merged into a single rhythmic pulse that filled the endless chamber. At the center stood a tall man dressed in a white coat. He seemed unsurprised to see Adam. "Welcome," the man said calmly. "You are 25 years late." Adam demanded to know who he was. The man smiled. "I am the one responsible for resetting the world." Adam frowned, unable to understand. The man continued as though explaining something obvious. "Your city is not a real city. It is a waiting station. Every person who lives there is only a temporary copy of someone who exists elsewhere. When the countdown reaches 0, the copy is replaced." For a moment, Adam could not breathe. The words felt absurd. Impossible. Yet as he stood there, memories suddenly surfaced inside his mind, memories that did not belong to him. He saw unfamiliar cities beneath crimson skies. He remembered conversations he had never had and faces he had never met. Somehow those memories felt more real than his entire life. Slowly, he realized the man was telling the truth. Everything he had ever known had been only a fragment of something much larger, a temporary chapter, a borrowed existence. Adam looked down at his wrist. His clock had started moving again. But something had changed. The numbers were no longer decreasing. They were increasing. The man noticed his expression and nodded. "Now," he said softly, "your real life has finally begun." At that moment, every clock in the hall stopped simultaneously. The ticking vanished. A silence so profound settled over the chamber that Adam could hear his own heartbeat. Then the lights went out. When they returned, the hall was gone. The desert was gone. The city was gone. Adam found himself standing in the middle of a crowded street he had never seen before. Thousands of strangers hurried past him beneath towering buildings that stretched into the clouds. He had no idea where he was. But one thing was certain. The world he had lived in for 25 years had been nothing more than a dream, and reality, he suspected, was far stranger than anyone could imagine.